The man in the mirror. You ever notice how people laugh at little habits? Mine was leaving the bathroom light on at night. Silly, I know, but an empty house echoes too much, and that warm glow felt like company. I told myself it was practical, a nightlight for midnight water trips, an anchor against the shadows. But deep down, I think it was something else, a superstition, a way of warding off the loneliness. I lived in one of those neighborhoods where time felt stuck, rows of houses identical as teeth, each lawn neatly trimmed, each curtain drawn shut as if the families inside wanted nothing to do with each other. My life fit right into that mold, quiet, predictable, safe, or so I thought. That night, I was brushing my teeth, half I caught it, movement in the mirror. My heart stumbled, then sprinted. Not me, not the hallway behind me, but someone else, a tall man, perfectly still. His head tilted in that off-kilter way a crow tilts when it's sizing up a shiny object. I spun around. Nothing. Just the hallway. Silence pressing against me. But when I turned back to the mirror, he was still there. Closer this time. His outline blurred by the light, but unmistakable. Shoulders broad, neck long, his face hidden in shadow. I blinked hard, spat into the sink, tried to shake it off. A trick of the light, I told myself. A brain misfire. But the mirror didn't care about excuses. The man was still standing behind me. And for a moment, just before I slammed the bathroom door shut, I swear I saw his lips curl into the faintest smile. I stumbled into the kitchen, my bare feet sticking to the tile where my own sweat had dripped. The phone barely rang once before a dispatcher's voice cracked through the speaker. I tried to speak, but my throat was dry, my voice a rasp. "There's someone in my house," I croaked. As I spoke, my eyes darted to the back door. Glass glittered across the floor like spilled diamonds. The curtain moved slightly, as if someone had brushed past it. "Stay on the line," the dispatcher said. Her voice was calm, rehearsed. Mine wasn't. "He's inside," I whispered. I pressed my back against the counter, clutching the phone like it was a lifeline. A sound from upstairs made me freeze. Slow, deliberate footsteps. Not hurried, not panicked. Measured, like someone pacing, choosing their moment. The dispatcher's voice faded under the thunder of my heartbeat. My mind raced. Run outside? Lock myself in a room? I was a rabbit in my own home. I edged toward the living room, keeping my eyes on the staircase. The mirror on the far wall caught my movement. For a heartbeat, I saw myself. Then him, right over my shoulder, closer now. His tilted head almost touching mine. My scream died in my throat. The house felt smaller with every second, shrinking around me. My safe little neighborhood suddenly felt like a trap. I lunged for the front door, but the knob wouldn't turn. Deadlock. The footsteps upstairs stopped. Silence. Then a soft creak right above me. "Sir, are you there?" the dispatcher's voice asked. I opened my mouth, but another sound came first. A slow, dragging scrape along the upstairs hallway, like a chair being pulled or nails across wood. I backed up, trembling so hard the phone shook against my cheek. He's coming," I whispered. Then the lights flickered, just once. But in that brief, stuttering darkness, I saw him, no longer in the mirror, no longer upstairs. He was at the bottom of the stairs, tall, still, tilting his head. And this time I knew he wasn't a reflection. He was in the house, closer than he'd ever been. The rattling grew violent, each shake of the knob tearing through my nerves like splinters. My arms trembled, but I pressed harder, every muscle screaming as if I could hold back the inevitable. The mirror caught my eye again. My reflection was there, wide-eyed, teeth clenched in terror. But his reflection, no, his presence, stood just behind me, grinning wider now, impossibly wide. I could see the tips of his teeth glinting like broken glass. He lifted one long finger and tapped the inside of the mirror's surface. Once, twice. The sound echoed in the room as if it came from everywhere at once. Then the closet door behind me stopped rattling. Stillness. My heart hammered against my ribs. I thought I'd won. I thought maybe he was gone. But then, knock, knock. From inside the closet, I screamed, shoving myself back, stumbling across the room. The phone slipped from my hand and cracked on the floor. I tried the window, clawing at the lock, but it wouldn't budge. Behind me, the closet door creaked open an inch, just an inch, enough to let the dark breathe out, cold and sour. I turned toward the mirror one last time, desperate for sense, for reason. But the man was no longer smiling. His mouth had stretched open, wider and wider, a grotesque parody of my own silent scream. And then he stepped out. Not from the closet, not from the door, from the mirror. Glass didn't shatter, didn't even ripple. He passed through it as though it was nothing but a thin veil. His long hand reached out first, pale as bone, fingers bending wrong, scraping along the dresser's edge. Then his face, shadowed, featureless, except for those teeth gleaming in a smile not meant for human flesh. I pressed myself against the window, fumbling, desperate. He filled the room with his presence, taller than the ceiling should have allowed, his grin stretching closer, closer. And I realized this wasn't about the house. It wasn't about the doors or the windows. It was about the mirror. And he wanted me on the other side. The officers moved quickly, their flashlights slicing through the shadows I had been drowning in minutes before. They swept the house, checked the locks, even examined the so-called shattered door. Nothing, no glass, no damage, just the faint outline of smudges on the handle, as though touched by something damp and heavy. I tried to explain. My words tumbled out in fragments. The man in the mirror, the closet, the grin, the hand that wasn't human. One officer exchanged a glance with the other, the kind of look you give when you're humoring someone too shaken to be trusted with their own story. Probably a dream, one of them said gently, holstering his flashlight. You've been under stress? Stress. That word felt like an insult. Stress didn't leave footprints. Stress didn't turn a mirror into a door. Still, they stayed long enough to make me feel both comforted and ridiculous. They checked the upstairs, tested the windows, wrote their report. When they left, they told me to get some sleep, maybe see someone if the nightmares kept up. Then the door shut, their voices faded, and I was alone again. Alone with the mirror. I tried to avoid it, turned it to face the wall. But mirrors are patient things. They don't need to chase you, they just wait. I curled on the bed, knees tucked to my chest, every creak of the house a knife against my nerves. My eyes burned from refusing to close. Hours must have passed, but the night never seemed to end. When I finally dared to look, the mirror was angled just enough to catch a sliver of the room. My heart stalled, because in that sliver, I saw something new. Not the tall man, not his grin, but writing, finger drawn, smeared against the glass as though written from the inside. One word, soon. And just like that, the police, the sirens, the reassurances, they all meant nothing, because you can barricade a door, you can lock a window, but how do you keep a mirror from letting something in? The cops closed their case the way they close hundreds like it. No evidence, no suspect, probable stress-related hallucination. Easy words to file away on a report, but they didn't see the footprints. They didn't feel the cold breath that leaked from the closet, and they sure as hell didn't wake up to the sound of something tapping from the other side of a mirror. I stopped arguing with them. What was the point? To them, I was just another man unraveling in the quiet hours of the night. But I know what I saw, and worse, I know it wasn't finished with me. Now, every evening when I walk past that mirror, I can feel it pulling, like a silent invitation. Sometimes, in the corner of my eye, I'll catch the faintest ripple across the glass, as if something were brushing the surface from the other side. And the grin, it comes back when I least expect it. Not always clear, not always bold, but there, waiting, patient. I've stopped treating mirrors like reflections. To me, they're doorways. Thin glass doors you can't bolt shut. And I can't decide what's worse. The thought that one day he'll step through again, or the possibility that I might step through first. So here's the question I'll leave you with. If a mirror shows you something you can't see with your own eyes, which side of the glass is real? Because the more I stare into it, the less sure I am that I belong on this one. If this story sent a chill down your spine, make sure to like this video. It helps more people discover the channel and keeps these stories alive. Don't forget to subscribe for daily tales that'll keep you looking over your shoulder. And share this video with someone who thinks they're safe when they stare into a mirror. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And don't forget, there's another story waiting for you right on your screen. I'll see you tomorrow, if you're still brave enough to look. The silent window. You ever notice how silence can be louder than any noise? That's how it started for me. The kind of silence that doesn't cradle you, it claws at you. I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling fan that ticked with every lazy rotation. My house was small, a modest little place on a quiet street, The kind of neighborhood where the biggest scandal was a dog digging up somebody's tulips. I chose it for the calm, the safety, or maybe because I wanted to believe that kind of safety still existed. That night, though, the calm didn't feel safe. It felt staged, like someone had pressed mute on the world. The kind of stillness you only hear when something or someone is waiting. I shifted under the covers, told myself I was imagining things, that I was just tired from work. But then the air turned cold, brushing against my cheek as if the night itself had leaned in to whisper. I sat up, my curtains swayed, slow and lazy, and that's when I saw it. The window I had locked before bed was wide open. The lock glinted like it was laughing at me, mocking me for trusting it. And smeared across the sill, stretching down into the carpet, were greasy, wet handprints. I knew two things right then. One, those hands weren't mine. And two, whoever they belonged to had been inside. At first, I wanted to believe the simplest explanation, that maybe I'd been careless. Maybe I'd left the window cracked. Maybe I'd kicked the door loose with my own clumsy feet. But the truth was written in the mud smeared across the carpet. Dark, wet streaks led away from the sill like tracks, like proof of someone's presence. And then I saw the space on my nightstand. Empty. My phone was gone. That small rectangle of light and safety, the thing you cling to in the dark, it had been plucked away like a toy from a child's hands. My chest tightened, my heart beating a frantic rhythm. I gripped the lamp in both hands, the cord dangling uselessly like a severed lifeline. It wasn't much of a weapon, but in that moment, it felt like the only thing keeping me tethered to courage. I crept down the hallway, my feet brushing against the cool wood floor, each step too loud, too obvious. Every shadow looked like it might flinch. Every creak in the boards felt like I had announced myself to something waiting. The kitchen smelled faintly of wet earth, like someone had dragged the night inside. The chairs were out of place, subtle, but wrong enough for me to notice. And then, at the edge of my vision, the front door came into view. It was open, wide open, hanging there like a grin, the brass knob glinting faintly in the streetlight. I froze. My breath caught, because drifting through that gap was sound, not footsteps, not words. Laughter, faint, airy, and wrong. Not the kind you laugh along with, the kind that slithers under your skin, making every hair stand on end. I should have run right then. I should have slammed the door, called the police, anything. But instead, I found myself edging closer, like the house itself was pushing me forward, curious, desperate to know what was waiting on the other side. And that's when I realized something else. The laughter wasn't fading, it was getting closer. That's when I saw them. 3 figures just beyond the glow of the streetlight, standing perfectly still, like mannequins dropped in the wrong place. Their faces were swallowed by hoods, shadows stretching over their eyes, y'all, but I felt them watching me. Every muscle in my body screamed to shut the door, to lock it, to vanish into the walls. Then one of them moved, slowly, deliberately. He lifted his hand, and in it was my phone. The screen lit his face from below, pale and ghostly, and there was my lock screen photo, my own smiling face, grinning at me like a cruel joke. The glow flickered as he tilted the phone toward me, as if to say, "Look what we have. Look what we know." Their laughter rolled low across the street, weaving through the night air like smoke. The sound wasn't loud, it didn't need to be. It was enough to unspool something inside me. My legs trembled, but I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. My lamp felt like a child's toy in my hands. Then came the whispers, carried soft, deliberate, like the breeze wanted me to hear. I couldn't catch every word, but one cut through clear as glass. Inside. My mouth went dry. Inside where? Inside what? And then my phone buzzed in the figure's hand, a shrill, mocking vibration. For a moment, I thought maybe it was a mistake, some glitch, until I heard it, the ringtone. Not outside, not across the street, upstairs. My spare phone, the one I kept hidden in my desk drawer, my last secret line of safety, the thing no one should have known about. Someone else was in the house. My body jolted with terror. The figures outside didn't move, didn't rush me, didn't need to, because the real threat was already past the threshold, already breathing the same air I was. I could feel the walls closing in, the air thick with presence. I had to choose. Run outside into the waiting shadows or climb the stairs toward the unseen thing whispering in my walls. Either way, there was no turning back. Panic surged like fire in my chest. I spun toward the kitchen, feet slipping against the wood floor, heart pounding so loud I swore they'd hear it upstairs. I clawed at the back door, rattled the handle, only to feel the cold certainty of the deadbolt, locked tight from the outside. Someone had sealed me in, my lungs seized. I pressed my back against the counter, trying to breathe quiet, trying not to exist. The lamp trembled in my grip, its cheap metal frame slick with sweat. Against shadows, maybe it would work. Against flesh and bone upstairs, it felt like nothing. The laughter outside softened, drifting farther down the street like smoke carried away by wind. Not gone, just leaving space. They didn't need to break in anymore. They knew the trap was already sprung. The real show wasn't outside. It was unfolding in my house, above my head. Then it came. The sound that cleaved the silence in two. Create. A slow, deliberate step overhead. Another. Pacing, measured, hunting. Whoever held my spare phone wasn't in a hurry. They were savoring it. I tried to think about calling for help, about neighbors, about anything, but my phone was gone and my voice felt stolen from my throat. All I had left was instinct. I edged toward the hallway, each step slower than the last, ears straining for the next groan of the floorboards above. They stopped. The weight of silence pressed down so heavy it hurt. I thought maybe they'd gone. Maybe I'd imagined it. Until the ceiling above me groaned again, sharper this time, right above the staircase. They weren't leaving. They were waiting. The realization hit me like ice water. If I stayed, they'd come down. If I went up, I'd meet them head on. Either way, I was already caught in their game. I gripped the lamp tighter, my arms aching, and stepped into the hallway. Every inch of me screamed to hide, to vanish, but something else, something colder, dragged me forward. Because if they were already inside, there was nowhere left to run. I never saw their faces, not fully, just the shapes of them, dark silhouettes slipping into the thinning night, melting away as if they'd never been real. By the time dawn cracked open the horizon, the street outside was empty, silent again, too silent. When I finally found the courage to step out, my eyes tracked the mud smeared across the carpet. It led back to the open window, streaks fading as they reached the lawn. And then, nothing. The trail stopped mid-yard, like whoever had come in hadn't walked out, like the night itself had swallowed them whole. My phone was gone, still gone. But sometimes late at night, I swear I hear its vibration buzzing faintly from somewhere deep in the house. Not from the desk, not from any place I know, just somewhere. Weeks have passed, and I've stopped telling myself it was a break-in. That word feels too neat, too ordinary. This was something else. Something that moved differently, thought differently, something that knew me. And now I wake every night, not from noise, but from silence. Because silence isn't empty. Silence is a container, and it holds the things you don't hear until they're breathing on your skin. Every time the curtains sway, every time the breeze brushes my cheek, I wonder, if someone opened your window tonight, would you notice before it was too late? So if you made it this far, don't forget to like this video to support the channel's growth. It helps more than you know. Subscribe for daily stories that will keep you checking your own windows, and share this with someone who needs a chill down their spine tonight. Thank you for watching and listening. Another video is waiting for you on your screen right now. Go on. I'll see you back here tomorrow. And until then, keep your windows locked. The creaking steps. We thought buying the old house was a dream, a place with character, a staircase that groaned like it had history in its bones. It was the kind of house you saw in glossy magazines with crown moldings, tall windows, and shadows that seemed to settle just right when the sun dipped low. My wife called it charming. I called it affordable enough to ignore the drafty windows and that faint smell of damp wood. The realtor smiled when we signed the papers, though there was something in his eyes that didn't match the grin, like he knew the joke and we were the punchline. The first night I heard it, the slow creak of the staircase. Old houses do that, I told myself. Wood swells, beams shift, nails loosen. You can explain it all away if you really want to. And I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But there was a rhythm to it, a pattern, as though something was climbing the stairs, heel to toe, step by step. Always at 3 a.m., as if the house itself kept time with a clock I couldn't see. I'd lay in bed, eyes wide open, counting the steps in my head. 1, 2, 3, 4, until the sound stopped. And it always stopped in the same place, right outside our bedroom door. I'd squeeze my wife's hand under the covers, pretending I wasn't listening for the whisper of the handle turning, for the soft scrape of fingernails against the wood. But the air stayed still, heavy, like the house was holding its breath with me. That's when I realized something. Houses don't just creak, they remember, and sometimes they walk. At first, I played it cool. We just moved in, boxes still stacked like centuries in the hallway. The stairs creaked, the pipes groaned, the wind whistled through the window gaps. Old houses had quirks, right? I told myself that on repeat like a prayer. My wife laughed it off, teasing me for being dramatic. "You're the one who wanted history," she whispered one night, rolling over and pulling the blanket higher. But history has a way of pressing back. One night, the creaks began earlier, not at 3, 2:58. The sound woke me like a slap. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, waiting. One step, another. The boards groaned under weight that shouldn't have been there. My wife was asleep, her breath slow and steady beside me. Then the handle on our door twisted, once, twice, like fingers testing the lock. I gripped the bat under the bed so tightly my palms burned. Silence. In the morning, sunlight hit the door frame at an angle that made me sick. Fresh scuff marks, uneven scratches at knee height. Not the kind furniture makes when it's moved, the kind a hand makes when it's searching for leverage. I tried to talk myself down, to reason it out. Maybe a neighbor's kid sneaked in. Maybe we forgot to lock up. But every night after, the creaks kept coming, a little louder, a little earlier. Then the photos started shifting. Not falling, shifting. Frames tilted by half an inch overnight. Drawers half open. My keys moved from the counter to the stairs. The house wasn't just creaking. It was rearranging itself like it wanted to hurt us somewhere. My wife began locking the door and sleeping with her back to mine. Her teasing stopped. Her hand trembled when she brushed her hair. We stopped talking about it out loud, like speaking it might feed it. And still the steps came. 3:01, 2:57, 2:49. Each night shaving another minute off, like a countdown only it understood. By then, the air upstairs felt thick, charged, like static before a storm. My chest tightened every time the boards moaned. My ears rang with silence when the steps stopped at the door. We weren't living in that house anymore. We were hiding in it at night. I didn't bother pretending. Sleep was impossible. I sat upright in the dark, the bat across my lap, every nerve wound so tight it felt like my skin could split. The house breathed around me, timbers groaning, pipes humming, wind scratching faintly at the glass. Midnight slipped into 1, then 2. My wife stirred once, mumbling in her sleep, but I stayed still, waiting. When it came, it wasn't subtle. One creak, then another. Slow, deliberate, like someone savoring the climb. I counted them in my head. 1, 2, 3. By the 8th step, my hands were slick with sweat, my throat dry as ash. Then silence. Not peace, silence. The kind that presses in, crowding out every other sound. My chest rattled with shallow breaths, and I knew it was there, just beyond the door, watching, listening. The handle jerked. Once, twice, not tentative this time, violent, insistent, like it knew I was waiting. The knob rattled hard enough that the door trembled in its frame. My wife gasped awake, clutching the sheets, her eyes wide in the dark. That was the moment something in me snapped. Fight or die. I lunged from the bed, the bat raised high and swung with everything I had. The door burst inward, slamming against the wall, and I saw it. A tall shadow stretched impossibly long, its form thin and warped, like smoke trying to remember how to be human. It had no face, but I swear I saw the grin, a wide, obscene curve of nothingness that bent reality around it. Its weight pressed into the boards, bowing them, as though the house itself struggled beneath it. The bat connected, or maybe it didn't. I couldn't tell. The wood sliced through the air with a crack that echoed louder than thunder. And just like that, it vanished. No retreat, no recoil, just gone. Like it had never been there at all, except the door was still open, the air still humming, and the floorboards still sagged as if something enormous had just stepped away. I stood frozen, bat trembling in my grip, sweat dripping into my eyes. Behind me, my wife whispered my name, her voice small, broken. But I couldn't answer, because I knew whatever I'd seen, whatever had been inside our house, wasn't finished. Not yet. I collapsed against the door frame, my chest heaving, the bat slipping from my hands with a dull thud. My wife screamed, scrambling to my side, her nails digging into my arm as she shook me. Her voice broke into 100 desperate questions. What was that? Did you see it? Is someone here? But I couldn't answer. My tongue was thick, my lungs straining against air that felt wrong. On the floor where the shadow had stood, the boards were sunken, warped in a perfect oval, like weight had pressed into them and refused to leave. I ran my hand over the wood. It was warm, too warm, as though a body had only just stepped away. We tore through the house in a frenzy. Every window was locked, every door bolted, the attic hatch untouched. Even the basement, cold, damp, rank with mildew, was empty. But the air followed us, heavy, electric, like the moment before lightning cracks open the sky. By morning, we were wrecks. My wife sat at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of untouched coffee. She wouldn't look at me. Her eyes kept darting to the ceiling, as if the weight above us could press straight through. I tried to tell her maybe it was a dream, some hallucination born from lack of sleep, but she just shook her head. Dreams don't bend wood, she whispered. That day, I noticed other things. Hairline cracks spidering along the hallway walls. A family photo tilting again, though we'd straightened it that morning. The faint smell of iron, metallic and sharp, lingering on the stairwell. We called the police. 2 officers walked the property, shining flashlights into corners, rattling locks, chuckling under their breath. Old houses, huh? One said, scribbling half-hearted notes. When they left, their cruiser's tires crunched the gravel, and the silence that followed was unbearable. That night, neither of us dared to sleep. We sat up, backs pressed to the headboard, the bat between us like some useless talisman. Every board's groan felt louder, every gust of wind sharper, every shadow on the wall too long, too still. The steps didn't come. Not that night, not the next. But somehow, that was worse. Because if it wasn't climbing, it was waiting. We didn't move out. We told ourselves we would, even packed a few boxes, but the house had already sunk its hooks into us. Days blurred into weeks. Realtors stopped returning our calls. Sleep became a rumor. Every night at 3 a.m., the creaks returned. Never rushed, never random, always stopping just beyond the door like a metronome for our fear. At first, we tried ignoring it. Headphones, music, prayers whispered into the sheets. But that didn't help. Some nights the handle trembled. Others, it stayed still. The not knowing was worse than the noise. My wife began sleeping in the guest room. She said it felt lighter there, but her eyes told me she was running from me as much as from the sound. I started talking to it, low, quiet, asking questions into the dark. No answers came, but sometimes the creaking paused, as if listening. That was when I understood. This wasn't something breaking in. It wasn't even trying to. It was already here. Testing, measuring, deciding. Now I sit up every night, bat across my knees, staring at the door while my wife sleeps somewhere else. The creaks come right on time. The pause stretches longer. And in that silence, I swear I feel it behind me, breathing against my neck, grinning that grin I saw once. So here's my question for you. If you woke at 3 a.m. and heard footsteps climbing toward your door, slow, deliberate, patient, would you fling it open and face what's out there? Or would you wait, heart pounding, for it to step inside? If this story left a chill in your bones, do me a favor. Like this video to help it reach someone else who loves a good scare. And subscribe so you never miss another tale waiting in the dark. Share it with a friend who thinks they're brave enough to listen at night. There's another story waiting for you on your screen right now. Click it if you dare. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Same time, same place, if the steps don't get you first.